Welcome to another edition of Rams Up Roundtable. I'm your host, Tom, at RamsBeat on X, and joined by our usual guests, Mark, my co-host on Rams Up. How you doing, Mark?
Pretty good. How's it going?
Good. Looking forward to getting into this draft that's just behind us. We also have Ian. What's up, Ian?
Guys, what a nice draft it was. Our mock draft, our group one we did that Tuesday before, draft weekend. It wasn't so crazy, wasn't it?
Wasn't so crazy.
My goodness. I mean, guys. I think people might be watching our pod, if you know what I'm saying. I think people up in Thousand Oaks might be tuning in. I don't know.
How you doing, Paul?
Keeping it live here on the East Coast, double barrel ram horns to the Ramley.
Woo!
Another monster draft. Looking forward to the season.
Good stuff. I can't wait for you to unveil the nicknames of all the new draft picks. Can't wait.
Yeah.
This is So that's it. That's the teaser, guys. So let's dive into this. I guess we just take it from the top, right?
I think so.
Yeah. So we go 14, unprecedented 14 offensive players in a row. And then we start getting into some defensive players. And so Latu goes 15. And then was it Murphy?
I want to say
16?
yes.
16.
Yeah,
Yep.
Yeah.
And then, so now we're at 17 and the Rams are up. And so, probably the top two guys on our draft board, I would say, were gone, right? We all love Latu and we all loved Murphy, right? We loved Verse a lot. But like Mark mentioned, he was gone in a lot of those mocks before we could get to him. So Jared Verse, Florida State edge, and take it away, Paul. What was your impression of the pick?
Yeah, Paul, that's your guy, man. You called it. That's what's up.
I got to tell you, Mark and I had done so many mocks. And I was like, Mark, reset that. Let's just do one where the big dog comes down to us, and we never got one. So, and when
you did how many mocks? At least 13, 14?
14.
Yeah, we never got one where he got that low. And then one day I was talking to Mark, and I said, Mark, they're talking about 6 quarterbacks in the first round. I'm doing the math. There is an outside chance that he might come. So when Murphy was taken by Seattle, I started saying, oh, wow, this might happen. And I said, Verse is going next. Verse is going 17 or 18. And then when he fell at 19, I could not believe it. And I said to myself, I don't think people realize how big a deal this is right now. This was, and I know I'm speaking for everybody here and for everybody in Ram Nation, to fill your number one need with probably and arguably the one or the two player at the position is the best case scenario we could have hoped for. And he is such a unique talent. And it really showed on draft day. All the post-pick material, all the media material that came out after the fact just, made me feel so much better about his selection. The relationship that he had with Big Dog Fiske, unbelievable. The stuff that they captured on video, great job by the Ram media department, was amazing. But just and then his interview, the genuine nature of everything that he shared about his background and how he had to work for everything at Albany, it just reminded me of Byron Young last year. That's who it reminded me of. A lot of the background, the work ethic that he cited, and I just think it's a great selection. I think. I don't think the Rams have had somebody on the strong side that could really be a difference maker since Floyd left. And I think J-Dog, that's his nickname. He is our junkyard dog, J-Dog. He is, he is the man that's going to be on the strong side. I think Monster Zero will stay on the weak side. We don't like to say the weak side. We always say the back side, right? But I think that combination is going to give the Rams an absolutely ferocious set of edges.
Yeah. When Vaughn got there, didn't Floyd move over to the left side of the defensive line?
He plays the strong side.
Oh, okay. So that's the strong. So, okay, gotcha. All right. And Ian.
Yes.
J-Dog. What do you think?
That's a great nickname. Shoot. I mean, guys, look, we talked about obviously the edge rushers and who we would like, and we spent months on that thing. And Verse was one of the top 3 guys, in my opinion. Either one of the 3 that we had named, I would have been cool with. Obviously, we all had our preference of who we wanted the most. But I started watching some serious film on him since we drafted him this past Thursday and beyond. Golly, we needed a player like him on the outside edge. I mean, guys, he's incredibly violent and aggressive. We needed that badly on the edge. A power rusher, a true power rusher. Someone who is not slow by any means, but my goodness, will he embarrass you with his strength when he gets his hands on you. I mean, it's fantastic. I mean, he's lined up at the 5 technique, the 7, and the wide 9, and just embarrasses offensive tackles that are inferior. Every rep. If that tackle is not equal to or better than him, he smashes them every time he's up against those tackles. It's ridiculous. And I think personally, which is going to be fun to see, he obviously played in a 4-3 scheme at Florida State. And for everyone real quick, that is 2 true defensive ends and true defensive tackles. Those 4 are always in a 3-point stance, meaning you got the hand on the floor, low to the ground. So when the ball is hiked, you're low and be able to be explosive to rush the passer or defend the run. I think he's going to play outside linebacker for us. Clearly, he's an edge guy, and he will be standing up like you see all our outside backers do. I think he can do that. But man, oh man, when his hand's in it during that 3-point stance, dude is unstoppable, it feels like when I watch game film. Now, his aggressiveness could backfire where he kind of misses a sack or misses a tackle, and that's something he'll work on, and I'm sure Shula and the crew will get him under control there. And is every prospect perfect? Of course not, but that's really the only main thing that's got an issue with me is that, hey, let's control that aggression and control that violent pass rush, run defense. And I expect him to be a 7-sack guy every year minimum. I mean, I look at him, I'm like, this is a Bradley Chubb level player right here. Big, aggressive, great hands, and could track down quarterbacks. And I'm excited, man. I'm excited. We didn't have to trade up. We didn't have to trade down to get a good player. And I'm happy with that. Shout out to
let's expand
here on my screen.
Let's expand Ian's analysis. Think about that. So Ian, right? Yeah. I count he had 3 primary pass rush moves. Can you imagine how nasty he's going to be after some coaching? And he develops a couple of other pass rush moves. And the contribution will be significant in terms of his playing down in that down stance, in that 4, that even front. When the Rams go to their 42 nickel, then you can really utilize them that way, and you can move them on either side. You can move Monster Zero to either side, right? And you can really play the matchups, and that's really where the advantage is going to come out of him playing down. There were a lot of people, a lot of scouts that said they wanted him to be a full-time end in the NFL. That's how impressive he was in terms of his physicality. Yeah. So to have him stand up where he can really use his athleticism is going to be just, I mean, we are just entering, like, just scratching the surface of this kid's ability. He's going to be an absolute beast once they unleash him.
Mark. Hey, real quick, I just want to share this stat real quick, and then Mark, apologies. So Daniel Jeremiah, who does a great job with his draft evaluation goods, he's obviously on the NFL Network, teaming up with their broadcast. He put out a tweet in the last month or so about Jared Verse and Myles Garrett. Both dudes are the only players in the last 10 years who have a 33-plus arm length, bench press 225 30 or more times, and ran in their 40-yard dash under 4.6. I mean, Jared Verse is a freak, dude. He's a freak in nature. Anyway, I just wanted to share that real quick for the All-American. Crazy, dude. Yeah. Crazy.
Whew. Bad Mark. Maybe we should call him the Anomaly. That should be his nickname.
he seems like one, man. Jeez Louise.
My input on Jared Verse is a little more superficial. We have to figure out how the Rams dig in about these prospects and identify the guys that meet this model of hardworking, serious football players. Yeah, the talent's there, I think there's a lot of guys that have talent kind of similar to Jared Verse, but then you have a guy that is serious about his football and his craft. And I go back to, you talk about people sharing stuff on Twitter. My special assistant sent me a video. Maybe you saw this. It was the Florida State football team, first day wearing pads, and they're coming out of the locker room. And there's like 30 guys walking, and Jared Verse is just through the roof screaming at every one of them, "We got pads. We got pads." Yeah. So excited that he's going to start hitting people. I thought that was pretty cool. But,
yeah. To the words of Sean McVay, I mean, he said, "We want grown men on our defense. That's what we desired." And we'll talk about the other grown men we drafted later. But you have an eye for it, Mark, to your point, man. Sorry, Tom.
They're all 24 years old. The thing with Verse is, and we talked a little bit about this with Hoyt and we were doing some of the edge discussions over the offseason and even last year. But I mean, I think the days of the finesse edge, the guy with the lean that gets around the corner and, the speed rusher, I think those guys aren't as valued anymore because offenses are getting the ball out too quickly, right? And these tackles are being trained, push the guy out wide, et cetera. And it's the guys, and that's why, quite frankly, the interior defensive linemen, their stock, their value is going through the roof, right? Yeah. I mean, just look at the value that the contracts these guys are getting. I mean, 5 years ago, these guys were $10, $12 million players. Now they're in the, Aaron Donald, Chris Jones, these guys, and, Quentin Williams, all these guys.
Quarterback money, Tom. Quarterback money, Tom. I mean,
they're getting 25 to 30 plus million a year. And the reason is that these guys can get to the quarterback faster because they're, have a shorter distance to go, right? So they push straight through. And that's what happened to the Rams. I mean, our little tiny, zone light, fast interior offensive linemen were getting blown up by this new breed of defensive line that these guys were, that these teams were amassing. And so, but just to bring the analogy out to the edge, if you can get a guy that's fast like Verse, but also he can get around the corner if the guy gives it to him, but he can go through the guy as well. If you watch the tape, you can see it, in spades. And so having that power edge rusher is, and also it makes it so much harder for the defense to get out and get around the guy if he tries to go inside or go, come underneath him and get outside. If he goes on the outside, right? I just feel like he can take the defensive lineman, the offensive lineman straight up and go straight back and push him back into the quarterback and collapse the pocket. That's way more effective than trying to get around the corner. So that's what I'm super excited about is we have this, we have the premier, power edge in the draft. And I would say even in the last several years.
And that's an interesting observation because when Mark and I we were doing one of the mocks, somebody had mentioned, forgot which pass rusher that they wanted us to select. And it opened up this whole thing about, it might have been Mark when we were doing the mock with I forgot who we were doing it with. And I started talking about win rate. And if you look at the highest win rate, it's usually the power rushers, not so much the finesse rushers, right? So to Tom's, Tom brought up a very astute observation in the sense that the finesse rushers become almost situational pass rushers because they can only win in certain scenarios. So you take a guy like Braylon Trice from Washington, Action Jackson, who we drafted, right, from the Cougars, right?
Chop Robinson got limited snaps too. He was rotational.
Who's the Alabama guy? Is it
Turner? Dallas Turner.
Yeah. Remember, that's why I called it. I said, everybody said he was dropping. He was going to 7 or 8 to the Falcons or whatever. He was by far the first edge rusher. But for this reason, I'm like, no, he's more of a finesse guy. He's smaller. He's fast as hell. He's going to win the Edge Olympics. But he's not. He doesn't have that power, and he dropped. He dropped to was he 3rd or 4th? I think he was 3rd edge.
He went right before we picked Verse, so because remember, I think Minnesota had traded up again, and they got him. I think a couple spots before we had picked. Maybe they were scared that we were going to take him, Dallas Turner.
Right.
Yeah.
But if you look at the big pass rushers like Braylon Trice and Action Jackson, who we drafted, right, those guys have a very impressive win rate in terms of not just getting to the passer, but collapsing the pocket, allowing someone else to get a sack, or causing the quarterback to throw the ball early. I think that's the key, right? And we saw a lot of that with Leonard Floyd. A lot of people said, well, you know, he always had an impressive sack total, right? But a lot of
Leonard
people
was great. People are tripping.
yeah,
when they say
people
he
lost
was
sight of the
ever.
fact that Leonard Floyd was always rushing in combination with one of the D tackles. They were running stunts. They were doing all sorts of things. And a lot of times he forced the quarterback up in the pocket. And who was there to feast on them? Gaines, Donald, right? And it really is. And simple math, if you think about it, Ram Nation, there's 5 O linemen. If one of your people on the downside, right, can win and force a double team, that increases the odds for everybody else. You're going to get 2 1-on-1 scenarios somewhere. That's where you're going to get to the quarterback. And that's the whole idea, is that the O-line has the advantage when you drop 7. But if you can win a double team on one side, that opens up a whole nother scenario for the defense. And that's the key.
And to that point, Paul, I mean, Kobe Turner got double teamed a ton this last season. So, I mean, those one-on-ones
won't happen anymore.
Yep, I mean those one-on-ones are coming. They're coming for our guys.
It's not going to happen anymore. Yeah. And that's why Michael Hoyt. That's when he turned his game around, when he decided, you know, I'm going to take advantage of my strengths, which is my, you know, as being an interior defensive lineman. He even though he's a little lighter, he's like, you know, I'm going to go through you, tackle, not around, try and go around you like a prototypical edge. And that's when he was getting toasted. And guys getting outside of him, underneath him, and they're just toying with him. But when he decided to go heads up with that guy, and now all of a sudden that tackle has to deal with him instead of a lighter edge, a smaller guy, and he went straight through him, that's when he started being way more effective second half of last year. And so anyway, well, good stuff on Verse. Well, let's move off to his running mate. So the Rams trade up from, if I get this right, is it 50, Mark, is it 53 to 39?
Right. Or is it 53 or 52?
Yeah,
52, like I think it was.
52 to 39. So trade up 13 spots, right? And so we basically trade second round slots with Carolina. And in exchange for that, they also get next year's second and then this year's 5th. And so the Rams got dinged a lot in a lot of draft kind of grades because of that. A lot of people dropped him from an A to a B plus and stuff like that, because that was, I think it probably was the heftiest give up for a move up of, you know, that size, moving up, whatever it was, 12, 13 spots. So they must have, you know, I don't know what it was, why teams weren't, that's the best deal they got. That's crazy. But anyway, they took it anyway. But we have Fiske, right? And so, Paul, what's your nickname for Fiske?
Well, I was doing some research. And Ram Nation, if you take a look at that background, that fire background that Ian's got up, there's a unique aspect to our boy there, 55, is that he doesn't wear gloves, which for D linemen and O linemen is not always the case. It's very rare, actually. And I found a really, really nice segment where the announcer from Western Michigan was talking about him and that. So we were thinking, and I have to give the credit to my little nephew who was watching TV and the commercial for Knuckles came on. So, you know, I was debating whether we were going to go with Brickhouse Fiske, or, you know, all these other ones, Braden the Brawler. But I think I like Knuckles. I think Knuckles is the way to go. I really think that captures the essence of this kid's personality, man.
Knuckles Fiske. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
So
Ian, what question, I guess, so what does he bring to the table? And then what does it mean to have guys like that have played on the same side of the ball for, you know, they only played together 1 year. Fiske has only been there 1 year. I think
Yes.
Verse has been there 2 years. So,
Yeah, that's
but they
correct.
played together a whole year. They had the number one. They were the foundation of the number one defense in the country. What is it? What does Fiske bring, and what does it mean to have Verse play with him?
Cool. Another violent and aggressive defensive lineman. I mean, it's really insane, and they played so good together. I mean, the stunts that we're going to pull off with them are going to be fantastic because they had a lot of combo stunts. And real quick for everybody, what that is that you have two rushers. It could be 2D tackles, an edge, yeah, whatever combination you like. What it is that basically you're going to have them start to rush one way, and then they're going to switch in whatever way that the coaches want them to. So let's say they both attack their normal way, then maybe Verse will wrap around Fiske or vice versa, or they both crisscross. There's a bunch of stuff that when we do film breakdowns in the future, we can go over that. They were so good at it. They were so good at that. And Fiske makes this work because, gosh, he's got great quickness and explosiveness. I mean, he beats one-on-ones consistently on film. I mean, guys, it's really insane. I mean, for him to be a 3 tech, which also was Aaron Donald's main spot, right? That outside of the guard spot. Gosh, he was fantastic. I mean, athletic enough to chase down athletic quarterbacks. He is not a slowpoke D tackle. He's not some raw power, and that's all he's got. I mean, he is a freak of nature. I mean, he had 3 pressures at least per game at Florida State this last season. Fantastic. And his combine stuff is absurd. It's Aaron Donald-esque. Every metric that was tested, I mean, the numbers are golly. I mean, for anyone out there who sees any of the relative athletic scores for any of these players that are entering the NFL every year, Braden had a 9.89 out of 10. And this RAS score, relative athletic score, has been being tracked for a gazillion years, it feels like, which I didn't know was going on for 30 plus years. He's in the top, gosh, what is it? The top 30 at least? I'm blanking on the number where he ranks all time since this metric's been going on. It is filthy, and it shows up on tape. Now, some people will say, oh, when he gets double teamed, is he holding it up good? I mean, those are things that are coachable. As he weightlifts with our program, his lower body will only get stronger. So I think that issue will subside. And some people said the same thing about Verse, but these are still young players that are going to get a real NFL man's workout every other day, right? And oh my God, I mean, it's going to be a great pairing, Tom. It's going to be a great pairing. Him, Kobe, the speed rush of Byron. I mean, Rams fans, you should be excited. And if you're on YouTube, check out my background. I mean, these guys were saying, where's my ring when they got screwed out of the college football championship? If they play like how they did championship level defense at Florida State, I mean, we'll be ring chasing very soon with them at the forefront too. Golly, I'm excited.
Mark, what's your take on Fiske?
Well, I will reference one video that maybe Ian is alluding to. Someone shared it on Twitter or somewhere, and it was an overlay of Braden Fiske on top of Byron Murphy running one of the drills. It's the drill where they smash the cones as they right. Yeah, and Fiske got a solid step on him. He was well ahead of him. So I know we all wanted Byron Murphy. I think at one point we were leaning towards Byron Murphy as maybe the ideal guy, but to get Verse and then Fiske, I'm pretty happy with that because we talked about this going back to the mock drafts. Mm-hmm. If you go tackle first, you might be disappointed with the edge you get in the second round. And so this played out perfect, Verse mm-hmm. and then Fiske.
Yeah. And I mean, just to touch on this theme, the Rams drafting mature guys, guys that have overcome adversity, guys that, still want it, have something to prove, chip on their shoulder, however you want to characterize it. Both of these guys have that. Both of these guys came from smaller programs. Verse was not a 3-star recruit, not a 2-star. It was a 0-star recruit, and he was a tight end. And and they let him. He went to Albany. They let him play some defensive. I mean, and it's just Fiske again, another small school guy, et cetera, had to prove his worth. It's just that's who they go after. That's the theme. And talk about character, whatever you want to talk about. maturity. I mean, I feel like the age isn't just, okay, well, they have more experience. It's more, they've had more time to prove who they are as people and, character and what their work ethic is on a consistent basis and overcoming adversity and then excelling and getting to the top of their game. I mean, that's just versus these 20-year-olds who are coming out, these cornerbacks or wide receivers who have had everything, have been 5-star recruits, NIL money up the gazoo, transfer this school, that school to the highest bidder, and then they're this, top whatever recruit, and they just think they think they're entitled, right? They just think I'm the chosen one, and it's going to come to me no matter what happens. And I think that's the difference, and that's why half these guys are busts, in my opinion. I mean, it's not because they're bad football players; they were great in college. It's just the mentality, and then what are they going to do when there's some adversity in camp or on the team, or when they get hurt? How are they going to come back and they lose their job to somebody better? It just goes on and on and on. So having these guys, these guys that have proven themselves from the character standpoint, at overcoming adversity, maturity, leadership, the success rate is so much higher.
No, it is.
Yeah.
And that's where the value of the trade down comes from, is that to get Braden Fiske and put those two together, think about that. You are allowing two players that have played together. And think about that Florida State defense. When our boy Jordan Travis got hurt, think about that. That defense put the team on his shoulder and said, okay, let's go. They had to carry it. So and that's a big deal. So here's the other aspect of it. To get those two together now, you are reinforcing the psyche, the culture that you are trying to have everybody buy into, right? Because now these two are going to be together, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're challenging each other. They're supporting one another, right? They're making it, the environment becomes so much more amenable to success and to hard work and dedication and commitment.
Yeah.
So think about that. You're going into a new environment, regardless of how great you are. But to be able to do that with your running mate, that's a whole new scenario. That is win-win no matter how you slice it. So, yeah, and Tom's right. There were a lot of people saying that second round, you're going to feel it next year. But you know what? You know what we're going to feel this year? Probably a really nice, smooth transition for both of these two superstars. And that's legitimately what they're going to wind up being. Two superstars. They're going to come in and have a chance to play together, right? And support one another and push one another and do everything that they did at Florida State to make themselves a success. Now they're going to bring it to the table with them when they show up at camp. And I think the Rams are smart to do that. I really do. I think it was a smart play. It's a very underrated move on the Rams' part.
Mark, what number pick did the Rams give up in the second round in the next year's draft?
It was a second round pick, which will end up being number 64 overall, correct?
Oh, that's right. It's been announced that it's number 64. Yeah, that's
you got my joke there, right?
Yes.
The elder statesman has spoken.
We got it.
Yeah, they gave up 155 in this most recent draft, number 52, and then next year's second round pick, which we can hope will be 64. And it will, realistically, it will be a late second round pick in all likelihood.
I think so too. So whoop the F and do, everybody. And real quick, before we move on, I found where Fiske ranks through this RAS score that I was talking about. So from 1987 to 2024, there's been 1,620 defensive tackles that have been rated and been accounted for this RAS score. Braden Fiske is ranked 14th out of all of those in terms of his combine athletic score. So he's the 14th most athletic collegiate D tackle to come out into the NFL since 1987, based off all his metrics. Insane. Jared Verse, real quick, while I have it in front of me, 1987 for 2024, accounting for all the defensive end edge rushers. Out of 1,738 of those guys from that time span, he's 76 all time. So we got freaks of natures coming into this building to play defense for us, guys. Just wanted to share that real quick. And again, you're on YouTube. We got to get jerseys, guys, man. golly, we're
The
in a
other
great
question
spot.
is going to be who gets to wear 55. I was saying J Dog was going to wear 55, but you got to let Knuckles wear his number. So we got to find. J Dog wore 96 at Albany. I looked it up.
I think I can see 45. I can see him going 45,
45?
or maybe he shoots 2-2, a couple thousand, maybe if he's got some NIL saved
Give
up.
up the
Maybe
5.
I don't know. Well, they'll have to figure all that out. But anyway, sorry to interject. Just want to share those incredible scores. My goodness, man! And it shows on film, guys. Everybody, this isn't just some combine Olympics numbers where that Tom likes to refute about Dallas Turner and others. Which that is correct. There are a lot of those guys, right? But their film backs it up. We're getting athletic freaks that show it when it's the athletic combine skill drills, and then when it's time to suit up and play real football, it shows just as much. So we're in a great spot with these first 2 picks, and we wouldn't have them if we were going to get Brock Bowers, which we tried to do. Everybody, let's not forget, we wanted Brock Bowers, and we tried to get in that top 10, and we would not be in this timeline of good defensive players if we would have done that. So I'll take this over Brock Bowers.
Oh, all day long. God, thank God.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on to our 3rd round pick, number 83, running back out of Michigan, Mr. Blake Corum.
So I like this pick, Tom.
Another guy who is a stud off the field character-wise. Mark, give us a quick breakdown of Blake Corum and what he does off the field.
Well, I know that he has his own real estate development company, and I know that he is involved in a lot of charities. Someone said that he was handing out turkeys the day before his game or the day after his game, something like that. And one of the ESPN or NFL personalities said, I think it was one of them, said that Blake Corum is the most impressive prospect he's ever spoke to ever.
Who said that? That's great news for us. But I wonder who said that. Wow.
Yeah, and as far as I shared this the other day, and I'll share it again. My special assistant, I don't know if he stole this from someone, but he said if you watch Blake Corum's highlights, if you squint a little bit, you can see Kyren Williams. I think there's a lot of similarities.
Oh yeah, I know exactly why they made this pick, but oh my goodness, man! And then, I mean, I don't mean to interject. Anything else to share, Mark? Sorry, I know I'm starting to ramble.
No, and I see. I think he was a team captain as well his senior year, right? I'm sure I'm forgetting some things, but that's it in a nutshell.
Yeah.
Jeez,
dive in, Ian.
I mean, guys, this is just a Kyren Williams clone. Perfect. And you know what? I've talked to a lot of people, friends, family, other people in our Rams universe, and they wanted somebody who was a different style, different flavor of running back to be featured in our offense. Well, today we signed former Eagle Byron Scott, if I'm getting that correct.
Boston Scott.
Boston Scott. Not Byron Scott. Boston Scott. So there's your different flavor for you right there for a cheap deal. Guys, when Kyren Williams got hurt, which let's just be honest, he's had 3 big injuries in 2 seasons. Everyone forgets. He broke his hand pretty bad in the playoff game against Detroit. He was not going to play that next round against Tampa Bay if we won and advanced. But let's be honest. He was not going to play that next week because he had major surgery a couple days later after the game. So the Rams are like, hey, we have a great all-pro running back who gets hurt. I love Kyren. I'm sorry, Kyren, if you're watching. It's just the reality. I hope your body survives as the future years go on. And they're like, hey, we want 1-4 when our all-pro running back goes out. Yes, Ronnie Rivers is serviceable. Yeah, Royce Freeman was cool and he was serviceable. But the gap of running style and the gap of explosiveness and tough running is so severe when he was out that our offense just went to hell when he didn't play. So Rams smartly said, hey, this is a Kyren Williams clone. He ran a gap scheme at Michigan. He ran it to perfection. I mean, guys, he had 27 rushing touchdowns last year. The next guy only had like 21 in the whole FBS Division I college football.
Yeah, the whole duo scheme, right? Where he's picking his side. He's setting up blockers perfectly. He's setting up, he's just,
it's filthy. I mean, his
coming off a torn meniscus, by the way. Coming off a torn meniscus.
Great vision, great agility. I mean, you can YouTube the clips of him doing ladder drills and kind of bag drills, juking around. It's filthy. Perfect for this scheme, everyone. Perfect for the O-line investment that we've made. I mean, I love this pick so dang much. And let's just be honest about it too. Kyron Williams has 2 more years left. Do we really think the Rams are going to re-sign him just based off our history? Probably not. Probably not. So looking forward, and obviously we're thinking about this year, but if Blake is splitting time at the minimum, he'll be healthy enough to carry the load in a couple years too, which I'm sure the Rams are envisioning deep down inside. So I'm happy with this. We get a captain, we get an All-American, we get Michigan's one of their best players in the history of their program. We get somebody who can run our offense without a beat being missed, which is something we need for a running back that is our starter who gets hurt a lot. So I'll end it on that. I love this pick so dang much for everything that we're trying to do.
Did we mention the Big Ten Medal of Honor, which is the equivalent of their conference's equivalent of the NFL Man of the Year? One guy one male athlete in the entire conference gets it for just being a stud on and off the field of play, fantastic. And he got it. It's insane. I mean, the accolades. Again, we go back to this character concept with the Rams. It's insane. I mean, you imagine the culture in that locker room that these rookies are going to help to set. It's not like they needed any culture help. They don't have any. They don't have any bad apples. I mean, there's no more Cam Akers. There's no more of these guys in there. And who was the receiver that quit after week 3? Couple years ago.
Deshaun Jackson.
Jackson. No more of those guys. So anyway, you just but the thing is that Ron Gould, I think the running backs coach, he said that what's really important is to have a backup running back that can run the same, even if it's just for a blow or if the guy gets hurt, that they can continue to run the same plays. Like that's been a problem for the Rams is when if you can't run the same plays that you were running when one of your other guys goes out, like that's a problem, and the Rams have been pretty bad about telegraphing their plays too, when they were, with different sets that they would run over the last several years. And he got a lot better about it last year. That was one of the keys to their success. And I just think that having that, those two interchangeability is huge.
Yeah, dude. Michigan runs the same exact gap scheme run plays we do. Pistol, under center, a little bit of zone. I mean, it is a seamless fit. Blake Corum coming in here, and he's going to play a ton. He is going to play a ton. Obviously, he's got to earn it, but I think he's going to play a ton. Which is better for Stafford, better for Kyron's health, Stafford's health. Our O-line is going to be able to maul people. We're going to control the clock more, right? Everything we've been wishing for, right, is going to probably come to fruition, and the Rams are obviously being smart about all these things. I'm so happy with this pick. It's a great pick.
One of the Michigan broadcasters did a segment after the draft, but all the Michigan players that got drafted. This was such an incredible insight. They said as great a season, right, that Blake the Great had. That was his nickname in college, by the way. I think we should keep it Blake the Great.
Cool,
right? Think about this, Tom and Mark and Ian. As great a season as he had, they said he's probably going to have a better 2024 because that knee's going to be 100% healthy.
Golly.
So everything he was doing was probably because one of the things they said that they noticed, and they watch every Michigan game because they broadcast every Michigan game.
Yeah,
they definitely saw a difference in that explosiveness through the hole. So everything that this kid did, they're saying he wasn't as explosive as he was the year before. If he recaptures that, they may have stumbled onto something here. Now, the kid that were commenting, the people that were commenting about his size, remember when Hilaire came out of LSU, right? And because he had about the same dimensions. He was like 5'7", because I looked it up. He was like 5'7.5", about 210. Blake Corum's a little bit more than 210, and he's at 5'7". Let's just think about the proportions of that to be 5'7",
Yeah.
And when you see him take off his helmet and his traps are like this, he looks like Vilma. Remember Vilma used to have those traps?
Yeah.
Yeah, no neck, man.
That's what this kid looks like. And this kid was the engine that drove that Michigan offense, man. He was the engine that drove that machine. So you're getting a kid that's used to carrying the rock, and now really what you're doing is you're just spreading around the abuse, man. right? Instead of Iron Kyren have to absorb 300 carries and how many hits, you just spread it around. You keep both these guys fresh. And it's like, it's like a prize fight, man. You wear the opponent down until you finally knock out your opponent. And that's exactly what they're going to be able to do. And that's what I had mentioned prior to the draft when Mark and we were all talking about the mocks, is that my observations of the last two seasons was every time Iron Kyren was on the sideline, you saw the frustration in McVay's face. He would call a running play, and it would wind up going for 0. And then you would see 5 straight pass plays because he wasn't able to, like Tom is saying, right? He wasn't able to keep that same play calling sort of flow, the same type of rhythm that he had, because he wasn't able to get that production, even if it was for only 3 plays, even if it was for only 2 plays. It kept taking the Rams off schedule. And I noticed that over the last 2 years, right? It kept taking the Rams off schedule, and you would see the dominoes start to fall. He would start forcing it. And that's when we would always comment, well, how do we go from running the ball to 15 straight passes? This is exactly right. And the one thing that I will say is this: Iron Kyren is money in the red zone. Blake the Great is money in the red zone. Think about that. And the red zone efficiency is something we've been talking about for 2 or 3 years now. I think this is going to really enhance the Rams' ability to score inside the 20. Because both of them can catch the ball out of the backfield too.
Yeah, it costs us the Detroit game, red zone, terrible play calling, passing. I mean, and I think Blake's a better receiver than Kyren. Kyren struggled in the passing game. Think about all those drop passes, and he's been good in the screen game. I'll give him that credit, but Blake can definitely go run routes at a higher clip than Kyren, so he'll add that dimension. And God, I love this pick, guys. I love this pick.
So we love our first 3 picks.
Yeah.
So moving on to pick number, our 4th pick, which was also in the 3rd round, Kamren Kinchens, safety out of the University of Miami. Mark, tell us about Kamren Kinchens.
Well, he appears to have the traits to play center field for us, and that's what we needed. I don't really I haven't done a deep dive on him yet. I think this is about where he would get drafted. I'm surprised the Rams went safety this early, but this pick gives the secondary, especially, the Quentin Lake situation, gives them so much flexibility. They can leave Quentin Lake where he was last year, and hopefully Kinchens can win that safety spot, play next to Cameron Curl in K2. That's what I'm pushing Paul for our new nickname for Kinchens. But you get the final say on the nickname. But you guys are familiar with K2, right? The mountain, second highest mountain in the
Yeah.
That's so just to make sure everybody knows where I'm pulling that from.
Yeah, no, we got you.
but a little surprised they went safety, but he seems like he's a real deal. I'll let Ian and Paul talk about the details of his skill set.
You want to go, Paul? Go ahead, my friend.
So I got to say, so when we were talking about, when we were mocking, remember that, and I had commented, when we started out, he was top 50. This player was a top 50 player that got knocked down during the combine. Ram Nation, that's what they did. They threw those numbers out the window. They said, listen, when you watch the tape, man, this kid hits a ton. He makes plays, and he plays with heart. He plays all out every play. And by the way, Mark, he already comes with a nickname. He has it on his chain. They call him Bam. So I think that's going to be his nickname.
Paul, real quick, which Cam is going to get that? I heard Cam Curl likes to be Bam Bam. Cam gets
so I think Cam Curl had it since high school.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to go to Curl, and we might go with K2 if you want,
K2,
right? We might have to go with K2 for Kinchens. But the one thing that stood out for me for this kid was, and I shared it with you guys on draft day, is that I'm watching the draft, and they cut to this live feed for something about the Rams. I have it in picture, and I'm looking at it. I'm like, wait a minute. And it's Cam Kinchens on his phone talking to the reporters. I said, I got to watch that. And who's right next to him? Tutu. And it's like 2 kids. Yeah. I wish you had seen that. It was like 2 kids, having fun. They're like Tutu's in the background waving his hands, and Kinchens is talking about getting drafted and how excited he is. And he's like, "Yeah, I know Kinchens was my Tutu was my quarterback."
It's crazy.
And it was like they had a smile on their face, and it was just a thing to see. I think it's a nice way that they balanced out that safety scenario. You got Yeast, you got Taylor, and now you got this kid who is going to allow Curl to be a little bit more aggressive, to play closer to the box. That's where he really thrives, and to be really aggressive. And you know what? Kinchens can make plays. That's the bottom line. The kid makes plays, right?
Yeah.
You watch him at the U. That's all this kid did. You turn on his film. That's all this kid did. And I'll be honest with you. A lot of people make mistakes when they look at these prospects. They watch the highlight reel. That is the worst way to evaluate one of these prospects.
Yeah, you got to see the
regardless of, you got to pick 2 or 3 games. You got to watch the entire game, right?
Yeah.
You got to watch, all the defensive plays, and then you can see the ups and downs during the game. And I got to tell you, this kid was remarkably consistent. The leadership he showed, the consistency, always in the right place, the athleticism. I still don't have an explanation of how his combine numbers were so poor. I really don't. Because when you watch him on film, he is explosive.
Yeah, I agree. And to add to that, I mean, look, he has great vision, and there's a couple times he'll trick himself out of it where he'll stare at something too far because he, and this is a young player thing, right? This is where he'll learn from Shula and all our coaching staff and McVay and everybody. Like, hey, we appreciate you locking in and be able to read the quarterback's eyes and make plays and be able to read coverages. Hey, but don't get locked in too hard. And I think he'll work his way out of that. But when he doesn't get himself trapped in that every now and then, I mean, dude finds the ball. I mean, guys, everyone remembers the great Miami days and so forth and so forth. I mean, he is one of the most decorated safeties to come out of Miami since Ed Reed and Sean Taylor. Why? Because they're the only safeties from Miami, the University of Miami, in the last 25 years to have double-digit interceptions in their careers. Golly, man, that's fantastic. And gosh, he plays aggressive downhill, not afraid to hit, lays the boom on everybody, just like the other Cam Curl that we have signed to our team. I mean, I love this pig. First team All-ACC. He was a first team All-American 2 seasons ago. So he was one of the best safeties in the whole, nation not too long ago. And obviously, Miami's team struggles are probably why it dipped for his All-American. But he reminds me of more of a playmaking Jimmy Ward, and that's Pro Bowl level talent right there in my eyes. If he turns into a Jimmy Ward-esque player, we got a great steal in the third. And I'm sure Chris Shula, who is someone who wanted John Johnson badly out of Boston College, who wanted Jordan Fuller late badly at Ohio State, I bet he was a big proponent in getting Kamren Kinchens in the 3rd round because he was like, he ain't going to be around when we have to pick again. And I'm happy about it. And hey, guys,
and don't forget, Curl was round 6, wasn't he? Curl was round 6, I think.
He was late in the round too. So
we had the success with Nick Scott, did we not?
Yes.
Also round 6, I think it was round 7. He might even be round 6 or 7.
I think, Scott was 7. And, hey, real quick, all you guys, gentlemen, my friends, we got to give ourselves a little pat on the back. In our group mock draft the Tuesday before Thursday, we had Kamren Kinchens mocked at pick 99 just with a random
right.
So nailed that.
And think about it too. 3 defensive players in our first 4 picks. And shout out to everybody listening. I know a lot of fans are like, that's unrealistic, guys. That was fun. That was a fun mock, but that was unrealistic. Well, the Rams said that is pretty realistic. We're going to execute that plan great. And man, oh man, we weren't too wrong, weren't we? I think the only pick that we had was Rukaroro was our 89th pick, right? Or excuse me, the 83rd pick instead of like Corum. But it was edge, D tackle, running back instead of D tackle, and then safety. I think we did a pretty dang good job.
And I had said Marshawn Lloyd at 3rd. I had the running back, but a different running back.
I was almost as surprised by the Corum pick as I was by the Todd Gurley pick.
Yeah, I was also. I was really surprised by that.
I just want to keep touching on this as we go through these picks.
Yeah.
So the leadership aspect, right? Again, rears its head. So so Kinchens, leader on that Miami defense, last 2 years, one of his coaches, when asked for a quote about him, the DC of Miami said, yeah, this guy could definitely be a coach, later on if he ever wants to be. That's how smart he is, and that's how well he reads the game. That's how much he helps his teammates. He's like a coach on the field, and God, do we need that from I love Fuller and Scott and Johnson. I love these guys, but we haven't had a stud safety, especially. These guys are good. They play the too high. They keep everything underneath them, whatever. But we have not had a ball hawk safety, for a long time.
Yeah.
And name the last one. It's been a long time.
I can't.
You want another illustrative example of the leadership scenario? So last year's rookie, the conductor, what did he do this year? Only 1 year in this culture, embedded in this culture, and playing next to 99 problems, right? And being able to soak all that in. After the Rams were done with their draft, he contacted the coaches. He wanted all the phone numbers for every draft pick. He personally called every draft pick. And when they spoke to Tyler Davis, the kid from Clemson, they said, "Has anybody called you?" He says, "Yeah, the conductor called me. He's going to regret it." He said, "If you need it," he texted me. "If you need anything, just reach out." He said, "He's going to regret that because I'm going to be hitting him up every time." So there you go. So there's an illustrative example, a kid that's been in that culture, embedded in that culture for 1 year, right? Look at how he has absorbed that. And he was already a leader because they also gave him high grades for character when they drafted him. Look at how that has now come forward. There's a perfect illustrative example to everything we're talking about. And I'm going to say this up front right now. Shula is going to play a lot more for aggressive, even fronts. He's going to get them after it. You're going to see the Rams be much more aggressive up front than last year.
I think so too, my friends. And we got 3 potential starters to fill the 3 voids that we all were not feeling good about. Remember, we went through our depth chart and we're like, D tackle, not a good spot. Who's going to be that free safety? Michael hits a good rotation of who's going to be our edge. And Ram said, "Don't worry, my friends. We will solve those problems in rounds 1, 2, and 3. And you got to feel good, Rams Nation. You got to feel good about what they did with the starter draft picks, right? Because everyone went rounds 1, 2, and 3. You hope those guys contribute and/or start. I think we did a hell of a job.
Yeah, 100%. And for sure, Fiske, and I think Corum will be a co-starter. Kinchens will be a starter. So you got 4 starters out of this thing. Yeah, almost certainly. At least they'll have the chance to. So let's move on to our 5th pick. We had to wait, skip the 4th round. We did not move up. Everybody, we were saying, and they're going to have to trade back or trade up or do something. I think when they traded up with that and gave up that 5th pick and gave up some capital next year to get Fiske, I feel like at that point they're like, okay, we can't give up any more picks or it's going to just be too costly. So they waited until the 5th round, pick 144, Brennan Jackson, another edge out of Washington State. Paul, tell us about Brennan Jackson.
I love that kid. Action Jackson, as we call him, right? That's going to be his nickname. Was easy because that's what this kid is all about, man. Kid is all about motor and size, and he's just another perfect complement to this defense, man. Can play on either side. Was one of the captains for the Cougars. Nothing but praise from the coaches. The coaches used to have to fight with him to keep him off the field when he used to get hurt. Even when he was hurt, he wanted out there. He would be like, "Yo, tape it up and put me back out there." And and I was telling Mark when he got drafted and they had the video snippet on him, and they asked him, "What did you say to the coaches when they called you to say that you were selected for the Rams?" He said, "When should I report?"
Nice.
So that's the kind of player you're getting. He's a great power rusher, has a tremendous bull rush, but also has the athleticism to bend the edge. Plays the run really well, and like I said, he goes hard for 4 quarters. I think he's going to be a great. I'm really excited about the edge situation for the Rams. It has gone from mediocre to I think it's going to be a real standout position for the Rams. You got J-Dog, you got Monster Zero, you got Action Jackson, and don't forget our boy Hoyt, man, flashing the LA sign, man. You put those four together. You also got O'Shawn Mathis, who's got, I mean, I think a lot of people talk about athleticism. O'Shawn Mathis was a real under the radar pick, but that kid is athletic. The kid can run, and he's got good size. So you put those five together, man, and I honestly think they're going to give Hoyt some more reps in the down position, man. I think they're going to let him go back to what he does well, and he's going to stand up definitely. Also going to put, that's where this kid came from. He went to Brown. He was a DN, and he can get after it. I think the Rams are going to have a lot more sizzle up front. Action Jackson is just going to fit right in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is another guy with leadership traits. What a shocker, right?
I know it. We're going to say this about every pick, my friend. I mean, shoot.
This is not some kid who, has drinking problems and gets a DUI at noon. Yeah. A 330-pounder who gets a DUI. Imagine how much that dude had to drink. Was sweat? Was it?
Yeah, I know, man.
To get drunk by noon. Anyway, no, but this guy is 23 and a half years old. I think he's either engaged or he's married. He's settled down already, and he. Oh, by the way, he not only has his degree, he has his MBA already.
Aye.
And I mean, it's just. Give me a break. It's
outstanding humans.
Yeah, these are right. And it's and so people are like, okay, great. We're not, running we're trying to run a football team here. We're not, running a whatever, some honor society. And so, but on the other hand, these are great football players too. And it just, I think more than anything, my takeaway is, it just increases the odds of their success, of their being able to contribute, of their not quitting or getting down or being a culture drag on a team. That's one of the things that we just don't see as fans. A lot of professional teams are so good, especially football teams, are so good about keeping that stuff in-house in general, unless the guy comes out and starts bitching about her or Cam Akers situation where they stop showing up. Yeah, so I just feel like, having that cohesive, strong culture, and it rubs off on other players too, guys that maybe might feel like they're doing that. These are guys that can put their arm around them and tell them some stories about when they were that way and lift them up,
Yeah, I agree.
And I think it's important for players too. This is a sport of attrition. You know what? And we've spoken about it before, in NFLPA and the NFL, not just the NFLPA, but the NFL also. And the colleges have to do a better job of it as well. To have these players if something does happen via injury or whatever, right? Everything is unpredictable in this sport. That they have something awaiting them, all right? Or even life after football, to have that. I think to have that luxury, to have that in the back of your mind as a player and have that box already checked off, I think makes you a better player. And when you talk about some of these guys and how they fit in and everything, if you have that luxury, think about that. A lot of players did. We talked about that, right? Like Ray Davis, right, Mark? We were talking about the background of Ray Davis, and I was really hoping the Rams would draft him, right? Mm-hmm. But, I still take Blake the Great. But, some of the things that these players have gone through, right? And we talked about the kid from the CFL.
Stiggers. Right?
Yeah. I mean, this is real life. People forget that, we see them on Madden. We pick them in fantasy, but we forget in real life, this is their life.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot to that when you're picking these guys that have achieved something. They have some sense of security, some sense of accomplishment. And I think it does feed into their success in the NFL. I think it really does.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, another captain, right? Another captain of a college team joining the Rams. Fantastic. I mean, he was another, all Pac-12, all conference edge, or player, and he was obviously playing the edge. And my goodness, guys, I mean, he's someone who, like Verse, had limited, rush skill sets. He'll get coached up. He'll get better in that department. I mean, he's got a great spin move. I really like that in the film that I've seen from him. I think he plays low to the ground, which is good for his rush. And again, he is raw still, but he was productive for, out there in Washington. So gosh, man, I hope he gets playing time. I hope he earns it. And obviously all our guys got to earn it, of course, but he's raw and was productive. Imagine when he gets the proper coaching, which he shall from our organization. I'm excited about this pick, later in the draft, and we'll see what happens. But yeah, like Tom says, we're just picking great humans who also, by the way, are pretty good football players and are all conference guys in their respective schools and leagues. It's just fantastic.
Don't you wish Hendo was still there? What if Hendo was still there, man?
Yeah, no.
Yeah, one of the comments on comments on Jackson's draft profile, I think it was maybe from a GM or a scout, it said no one plays harder in that entire conference than Brennan Jackson.
Perfect.
So that's something.
Yeah, perfect. And real quick, shout out to another Southern California draft pick. He's from Temecula, obviously a little more deserty, but that ain't that far away from the hub. And if anyone saw the draft phone call clips, you can YouTube that. I'm sure on those socials, Ram socials, they're up there too. His family was so happy because that's a big deal too, man. There's an extra little juice when you're playing for your hometown team, and I think he'll be happy about it, and I think his family, and that's another driving factor to perform well, right, Paul? Right, Tom, Mark? I mean, those things matter.
Oh yeah, I can't imagine these parents necessarily want to go to Cleveland 8 times a year.
Yes. Yeah, those round trips ain't that cheap. Yeah, but yeah, great, another great draft pick by the Rams. Shocker. But I don't know if I can hear you too well, my friend Tom.
Sorry, I unmuted there. So moving on to our first of 4 6th-round draft picks. Number 196, Tyler Davis, another defensive tackle, interior defensive lineman from Clemson. So I'll tee it up here. Another 2-time captain on a very good Clemson team. Right. And he set the record for the most starts in Clemson football history. And
crazy.
And so that's not, not always a great thing because, okay, maybe he stayed there longer than some guys that were able to leave early, but fair enough. Sure. But he stayed healthy, obviously. So, he's a run stuffing nose tackle, did try and play a little 3-tech, but, really could never get to the quarterback. So he's basically a nose tackle run stuffer. To work with Bobby Brown, Ashawn Robinson style, come in on rundowns, and but very effective in that regard. Paul.
Yeah, I love this kid. And just to add to, you were talking about the stats, PFF had him as, over the last 3 years, 4th highest run defense grade.
Oh, nice.
Think about that. Right?
I only like PFF when they grade the players I like well, but when they don't, then
yeah, some of their grading systems are just
it's just PFF.
Yeah. But he's also,
sometimes I agree.
He's also one of those kids that really speaks to, he was able to adjust his game based on who he had to play with. Think about that. So when you're playing next to Rook, right? You got to, look, Rook, the kid's a beast. Right?
Yeah.
So this kid, they played him a lot more at the nose, right? And, it was interesting when they were asking him about what type of player he was and everything else at that interview. He looked like a little kid. He's got the camera there. He's talking on his phone, and he said, he reminded everybody, I had 5.5 sacks the year before, right? Because he only had a half a sack that this season. But he said, I had 5.5 sacks the year before. He reminded everybody, right? So the kid is tough as nails. He's already saying, I want to learn from the conductor. We're hearing all the right things. This is what we're going to talk about. They are going to squeeze every ounce of talent out of this kid, right? He's going to be in that sort of type of atmosphere. And this kid wants to succeed. You just hear it in everything he says. He's happy to be a Ram. He's happy to be selected. He has shown the physicality that he can handle, that the war in the trenches, he can handle it. He's already proven that part of it. Now it's the other part of his game, right? The technique, the production against the pass, right? And I think it's going to be a real nice combination across that front, man. There's every player brings a certain nuance to the down lineman scenario for the Rams. I think it's a nice combination. Hopefully Bobby Brown shows up this year. Listen, this season's tailor-made for Bobby Brown to show up, and I hope he does. Because he has been noticeably absent, and they really need him to show up. Because if he winds up being a player, I mean, that front is going to be just absolutely devastating. So I think this kid is a perfect complement. He's got the right attitude. He's got the talent. I think they underestimate this kid, and I think this kid he's got a chip on his shoulder, and he's going to show everybody that, he's going to pull a Puka. He said, you really underestimated me. So, I like everything he said in that 1 minute snippet I saw in the video after he got drafted. And listen, if he's going to be working with the conductor, man, I think he's going to have a rock solid rookie season.
Yeah. But
and his nickname is D-Day.
Oh, is it? I thought nickname.
Tyler D-Day Davis.
D-Day, I love it.
D-Day all day.
Mark, so the Rams draft 2 edges and 2 interior defensive linemen in the first 6 picks.
Crazy. I
think you're muted, Mark.
The 2 defensive linemen don't surprise me at all. I think Paul and I had mocked that several times. I think that was probably the most common scenario, 2 defensive linemen, and probably even earlier than this. But we needed to add bodies there. If you look at our depth chart, and we did, we talked about our depth chart a couple of weeks ago, and it was a little scary. So problem solved. We addressed it as expected, and good to go.
Yep. Good stuff. Well, let's move on to the next 6th round pick, Joshua Karty. So there were 3 kickers picked in the entire draft, and they were all picked within 10 picks of each other. And Karty was the last kicker picked. He was the guy from Reichard, I think, from Alabama. And then, I don't know, was it a guy from Tennessee maybe? I'm not sure.
I thought Cam Little went after him. No?
Oh, did he? Maybe
Let me check.
I don't know.
Oh, the kid from Arkansas?
Yeah, Cam Little went 3 picks later.
Oh, 3 picks later. I got you. Okay, so it was Reichard, Karty, and then Little?
Right. Correct.
Yeah. Gotcha. Okay. So anyway, a lot of people had Karty as their number 1 guy, even above Reichard. And we were on record, all of us, no revisionist history. We will not, absolutely positively not draft a kicker. Mark pressed us several times. And we all agreed no kicker in the draft. We can get one afterwards. But having said that, I think
you guys kind of bullied me on that one, but that's fine.
Yeah,
I was on board with getting a kicker later. I'm with you, Mark.
Anyway, no, I love it. There's maybe the 3rd round Niners is a little too early, but getting a kicker. I mean, we obviously needed that consistency, and hopefully he comes through. But seems like a great kid. What was it? One of us, somebody said they thought that he was a Niner fan because he went to Stanford, and
he said it at one of his interviews. They asked.
He said it in one of his interviews.
One of his interviews, and then he backtracked. His mom wanted him to go to the Rams. His mom had little ram horns on.
I know. Yeah, I saw that video.
You don't just have 32 different headgears laying around your house. Depending on
did you hear the story from, I don't know if it was Jordan or someone, saw her at the airport coming back, and they had a conversation, and the mom, I guess, had done her homework and said the Rams are the ideal situation for my boy.
There you go.
Oh, well.
Yeah,
look at mom studying the film like everybody.
Always listen to mom. You see that, Ram Nation? Always listen to mom. Mom knows best.
And I don't think they're a West Coast family. I think they're from Tennessee or somewhere out back there.
But you know what was really great about this kid, guys? When I watched the video and they had, the thing, welcome to LA, and then they show like 40 seconds of the background.
Yeah.
It was yes, they showed his big kicks, and he hit some big kicks for Stanford, like legitimately, like 50 plus. And everybody on the sideline, all his teammates, because the kid is really quiet and reserved, right? They're shouting out, they're grabbing him, best kicker in the country, because they know he won't say it. And they're looking at the camera, best kicker in the country. How many teams where you see the guys on the sideline shouting out their kicker, right?
Yeah.
That shows you that, the teammates love this kid, right? There's something about this kid that really won all those guys over, that they're taking the time. They're not shouting out the guy who, ratted back for 6. They're shouting out their kicker, right? So, hopefully, honestly, if this kid winds up being clutch and consistent, that's all they need this kid to be. Clutch and consistent. And if this kid can do that, man, holy cow, this draft is going to be something else for the Rams, right? If he can hold it down, get through that tough spot early in the year, because all the kickers go through that. And then he just has that confidence that he can do it. I'm telling you, this kid's got the leg, he's got the temperament, and now we know he's got mom in his corner. How can this kid lose? So
yeah, guys, we need a kicker so damn bad. It's special teams has just been giving me anxiety and sadness for many years now, since Gay's been gone and so forth. It's been sad, and hopefully this California kid, right, for being a Stanford Cardinal, can help us out. I mean, guys, he's 24-27 the last 2 seasons of kicking from 40 plus, which is obviously the more gruesome, the more, oh my gosh, I hope he makes it kicks, right? It'll put us up. I mean, think of the Steeler game we should have won. Think of the Detroit Lions playoff game. And there's going to be 3 or 4 games this upcoming season, because our schedule ain't easy. I know the schedule hasn't came out exactly when we play who, but you can see who we play. We play a lot of playoff teams, like usual, it feels like. So he's going to be needed. And based off his college production, I think he'll answer the bell. And man, oh man, it's just good to just address all the needs and feel good about those picks, right? Whether it's kicker, whether it's all the other defenders. With this kicker selection, I feel good about it. And usually you kind of don't feel good about drafting the kicker usually, right? His film, his gameplay action, I don't see how you cannot feel good about it, right, gentlemen? Shoot.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. I'm going to do a little bit in the next few days. We were getting some pushback on the YouTube channel from one commenter, because I had said that we had argued never draft a kicker. And so I'm going to do some analysis on that very subject.
I stand by that.
There's some good, and for good reason. There's some good stuff out there on that exact topic. And so I'm going to dive into that a little bit.
I know Sam Sloman has scarred us all, gentlemen. I know.
Yeah.
I know.
Well,
We're okay.
The question is, the question you have to ask is, if we had not drafted Karty, would another team have drafted him? If he slid out of the draft, he probably would have jumped at signing with the Rams.
Yeah.
So that's the other argument, but very good chance someone would have drafted him. And so
but why not take the guy?
Right.
If you like the guy, why not take?
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
The 6th round.
Yeah. Yeah. And even the 7th round, I've always said, there's no such thing as a bad 7th round pick.
Yeah.
Take a flyer on somebody. And you see a lot of these teams do, they draft players from small Canadian schools and places I've never heard of before. Why not?
Yeah.
Yep. Well, moving on to our 3rd 6th round pick, 213, wide receiver from Texas, Jordan Whittington. Very interesting pick in the 6th round, guys. Hey, this is a little bit of a shocker here. He was an honor roll, all Big 12 honor roll, and he was he got his degree, graduated. He and his coach Sark said that he doesn't think there wasn't a guy who's more respected in the locker room than Whittington. He went through so many injuries. Again, a guy that was highly touted out of high school, went through a lot of adversity, a lot of injuries, kept coming back, working hard. And I'll let you guys dive into his football skills and so forth. But in high school, he's a wide receiver, but he's a wildcat quarterback. So it'll be interesting to see. His yak is like his super strength and his special teams and stuff. But in high school, he lined up in the wildcat. He was the primary quarterback as a wide receiver. He became their primary quarterback as a wildcat quarterback and broke the state championship rushing record in Texas, 4A football in Texas. And guess whose record he broke? Rushing record he broke.
Oh goodness! Who were was Derrick Henry's or something? I don't know where Derrick Henry's from. Is he a Florida
Eric
guy?
Dickerson.
Oh wow!
He broke Eric Dickerson's rushing record in the state championship game.
That's
300-something yards. Anyway, so a little background, but Paul, take us through what Whittington brings to this team and why the Rams took him.
Oh, and in addition to the leadership, so he's a converted running back. He has great size. He fits the profile that the Rams like. And when you watch him play, you can see the potential there. And that's actually what Sean McVay said in the phone call when they picked him. He said, we love everything that we see. We love what you have. I mean, I'm paraphrasing, of course. He's basically said, man, we'd love to have you. And because that's exactly right. You see the potential is there. He did have that string of injuries, but to have that type of profile, right? And they still elect you one of the team captains. Think about that for a second, guys. That's speaking volumes. That's how, I think Tommy said it best, how well respected this kid really was. Right? They valued him that much. So what's really impressive is when I watched him on those tunnel screens and the bubble screens, man, when he got the ball in his hand, you just saw that running back just come out of him. Man, he was, he was looking to take it to the house. And that's what I really like. I also like the fact that on a lot of throws, he was able to high point the ball. So he's physical. Wait, hold on. Let me think about it. A receiver that was undervalued, ran through a string of injuries, very physical. People underestimate him and has a real just desire to play the game. Who does that sound like? Well, this kid definitely brings that dimension to this team, and hanging out with Puka, I think, is really going to help this kid shine. I think this kid is going to be a solid pick. He has a lot of the intangibles that we said about Puka last year. He has a lot of those intangibles. Now, whether or not he's going to have that type of production, I think, lightning strike twice? Who knows? But why not? Hang out with Puka. Let it just rub off on you. Hang out with King Cup. And that's one of the things that he said in an interview after the draft. He said, I cannot wait to be schooled by King Cup. That quote alone makes this kid worth that draft pick. The kid knows how to succeed. He knows who he has to hang out with. He knows who he's going to hang around the jugs machine all day and work on his hands. Who's going to work on his route running. This kid's got all the potential to be a very solid contributor in that wide receiver room.
Yeah, he is. And his superpower is the ball in his hands, right? The yak, the yards after catch. That is his best skill set for sure. Definitely has no problem taking hits down the middle, makes a lot of tough catches. Obviously, he didn't get a ton of opportunity at Texas because of injury and so forth and so forth. But, he's a tough son of a gun, man. Willing blocker. I mean, that's what we desire in Rams wide receivers, right? No matter how big, small, whatever your body type is, can you be tough? Are you willing to block? Can you run clean, crisp routes? And I think all those, you can check the box on him. And Coach Yarbrough was excited talking to him on that draft phone call. So I think, we have a nice little project. Hopefully injury, stays away from him in the pros, and we'll see what he turns into. Because again, Skoranic's a free agent, Tutu will be a free agent, DeMarcus will be a free agent. And if he turns into something, a rotational player to play, the third or fourth receiver, or, a good special teams player, which I'm sure that is the goal at the moment based on the wide receiver room and how packed it is. We'll see, man. But we got a nice little project receiver in our hand that's got a lot of talent, clearly, and we'll see what he turns into. But there's something there. There's something there, guys.
Yeah, super exciting, man.
Yeah.
Another great pick. So moving on to our second to last pick, our last in the 6th round, Bo Limmer, center out of Arkansas.
Mm-hmm.
So take it away, Mark.
Well, I don't know much about him, but I think more than anyone else have been arguing for adding interior offensive line depth. And there is a couple of analysts that love this pick. Someone said that he's going to be a starter for sure at some point. A lot of starts at Arkansas in the SEC. I want to say something like 40 something starts. Is that right?
Yep.
Just tons of experience. So, hey, if you look at our depth chart, our interior offensive line, we had to make a pick like this, and I still am a little concerned, but less concerned than I was a few days ago. That's for sure.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we needed that center backup, right? We didn't want to, because it
Yeah,
is,
we had
even though
none.
everybody said, oh, hey, if one of our guards get hurt, then Avila can move over to guard, then we'll, who's going to play center, right? So this does give us that capability to kind of not miss a beat. But yeah, having a backup center is huge, right? We lost both of our centers from last year. So yeah, that's
and gentlemen,
he also has guard experience, so he can play guard as well.
Yes, and guys, he's 6'5", 305 pounds, squatting 700 pounds in some viral weight room videos that are going around. I mean, does he not fit what we're trying to do now, right? Just big-bodied. We're going to beat the crap out of you, linemen. And guys, speaking of the RAS, the relative athletic scores, Braden and Jared Verse were top 100 all time since 1987. This dude is from 1987 to 2024. Out of 1,583 offensive guards / centers that have been scored, he was ranked 34th all time with the RAS score of 9.79 at 6'5", 305 pounds. This dude is another super freak. And along with Braden Fiske, who balled out at Senior Bowl practices and the Senior Bowl game, Bo Limmer right here balled out at Senior Bowl practices and the game itself. So, the Rams love those Senior Bowl standouts, and they got 2 of them on both sides of the trenches. I'm happy with this pick. We have a capable center. And again, he's got to earn it. We got to see what happens when, you suit up and he plays other professionals. But another draft pick that I love. Shocker. I mean, Rams are just killing it. I mean, we got another big-bodied son of a gun, man.
This guy was graded in the 4th round by a lot of people. And I don't know why this guy wasn't drafted earlier, but
we were taking him in round 5. We had taken him twice in round 5 in our mocks. Listen, 27 starts at guard, 13 at center. You don't start 40 games in the SEC and not be an absolute monster, right? So his nickname is easy. He played for Arkansas, Boss Hog, Bo Boss Hog. That's what this kid is. He's got that hog mentality. He can play guard, 27 starts, 13 at center. Listen, that type of versatility, Mark and I were talking about, that these players that can play both, that you're talking about a player that fills 3 spots for you: left guard, right guard, and center. That's what this kid, and you're not going to miss a beat. Look at that size. And in a pinch, I mean, this kid, you could throw him and say, listen, can you cover for the Hammerstein monster? We're ahead by 30. Get this kid some playing time. You never know. But run the ball behind this kid, right? This is exactly what we're talking about. You're building quality depth. This is a game of attrition. Depth on the O-line. Mark is absolutely right. Depth on the O-line is always undervalued. So to get this kid at the pick that they got him is just bananas.
Yeah, I'm still traumatized from a couple of years ago when we had 13 offensive linemen.
Yeah,
16 or 17. Yeah.
Great value.
Yeah, it's rough. Yeah, super freaks, all Americans, all human beings, number 1 human in their state, in their school. I mean, shocker. I mean, Snead and Sean just have it down now, man, in year 8 together. Fantastic.
Yeah, here's another guy who's has his degree and is already working on his master's. I'm sorry, no, I jumped ahead. Yeah, I jumped ahead to 11 to. I'm sorry, to 11. My bad.
It's all good. Everyone's superhumans. It's okay.
Yeah, let's jump ahead though to Levinston and So our last pick, 7th round, number 254 guard out of K-State. And like I said, this is a guy who's another Texas guy. I'm going to have to go back and count how many guys are from Texas. I mean, there's a lot of guys from Texas.
Big state. So, I mean, hey.
A lot of football players.
Too.
But anyway, no, this is a guy who's another stud who is, like I just said, getting has his degree and getting his master's. And just another adds more depth, right, Mark, to our interior offensive line.
Yeah, I don't know much about this guy, to be honest with you. When they called that name, I was like, who? We did a lot of homework. We did a lot of mock drafts, and this guy never popped up on my radar. But reading about him, seems like the kind of guy we like. He can, I think he could potentially play either tackle position, perhaps. So, need to beef up that offensive line depth-wise. So we get 2 guys late, Limmer and LeVantston. Don't know much about him, to be quite frank, but Rams, if Les Snead is making this pick, I'm behind it.
Yeah, he played next to Cooper Beebe, I think.
Yeah.
Well, gentlemen,
right.
Another large human being on the O-line, shocker, 6'4", 326 pounds, just fits the mold of just trying to just beat the hell out of defensive linemen and linebackers. And the limited film I've seen, dude's got raw power, man. And it's just, how can we harness that into consistent hand maneuvering technique? And obviously, hey, when you're drafting the 7th, there's obviously things to be coached up into. But, he's been in college football for a long time. He was an honorable mention for all-team Big 12. So the dude can play. And he's not just some scrub that we're just taking the chance on just based off, he's just a big human. We need depth. There's talent there to be cultivated and to be, taught up. So, hey, another project right for the 7th, and we'll see what he turns into. And hopefully he's able to be a good depth piece or future starter. You never know.
6-year senior. He's a 6-year. He's 24 and a half years old already.
Yeah.
This guy is crazy.
And remember, Alaric Jackson was undrafted. So.
Yep. And he's became a starter. It's a planting the guy we paid. So anything's possible. And whatever we need to fit the mold of what we're doing, right? Everyone we've drafted, it fits the mold of what we want to do as a Rams organization on the football field. Offense, defense, trenches, skill players. Everyone fits in pretty well. Human being and then the skill sets for playing in between the lines. So what more could you ask for, gentlemen? Shoot.
He's had 27 starts over the last 2 seasons. 27 starts. He was flagged only once. Right. And for all the criticism they were saying about his game and his technique and everything else, what does that tell you? That even though he has a lot to clean up, he played to the whistle. Otherwise, you get tons of flags, right? You get your quarterback beat up. Mm-hmm. So, and he was playing out of position. A lot of people feel that he is more natural at guard. You work on the pad level and everything else, right? And this kid could be a road grader. We don't know, right? But he's got the potential there. That's a ton of games. 27 starts over 2 seasons, right? You don't just walk into that. You got to earn that.
Yeah. Agreed, man. Can we just play football tomorrow, man? Can we let's go. Get a couple practices in. Let's just rock.
Yeah, I wonder how many of these guys are going to play in the preseason. I wonder if Verse and Fiske will play in the preseason, given the Rams' past track record.
Probably not.
Yeah.
Probably not.
We'll see.
So, hey,
we'll
Paul,
see.
We'll
see, man. Hey.
Paul, we had 6 out of our 10 picks were in the trenches.
Yeah.
That's how you win up front. That's where it starts, man.
That's the Rams, man. The new trench team. And plus look at the guys that we signed on the offensive line in free agency, and then this huge brawling tight end. This team is just Harbaugh's jealous. I tell you that.
Yep.
Yeah, they heard Harbaugh was coming to town. They're like, guys, we better beef up on the trenches because Harbaugh's going to be doing that.
Oh, remember, offensive linemen are weapons, according to Harbaugh.
Offensive linemen are weapons. Yeah, so gosh, the Rams really beefing up in the trenches. So good stuff, guys. Well, maybe what we can do is get together next week. We let this kind of sink in, and then we could relook at a new depth chart, Mark. How does that sound?
Yeah, it'd be a good idea. Yeah.
Yeah. Look at a new depth chart and kind of look at it from a bigger picture. Maybe if there are any holes, what we're looking at, maybe we can start to look at some of these UDFAs that are coming on board and see where we're at. So we'll regroup next week and take kind of take a step out and take a little broader look at where we are with the roster.
Sounds great.
That
Good
sounds
stuff,
good
guys.
to me, man.
Hey, great breakdown of our fantastic draft. Super excited about this draft. I mean, I was jazzed about last year's draft, but this is a whole different level, right? I mean, geez.
Yeah, it is, man. I mean, it's just, and look, there'll be people that are like, oh, everyone feels good about their draft, and yes, there's some truth to that. I know, but we addressed all our needs and we doubled down on it. We spent the most money on offense. What do we need? Defense. We drafted tons of defense in the trenches, which we desperately needed. And golly, for everyone out there who was like, we need receivers, and obviously I was an advocate for Rome. A Brock Bowers trade was going to happen until people told us no, right? That was a thing. But I'm so happy that it turned out this way. And we have a better overall football team because of it. Hey.
Oh, yeah, I couldn't be happier with this draft. So
yes.
Any thoughts, Paul?
Well, they knew they had the skill, so they brought in some muscle to back it up. And I think, if the free agent signings and if you take a look at the draft, if you take a look and put those two in conjunction, they're definitely, to me, they're definitely going in that direction. They know that they have the skill, and now they want a little bit of the muscle to back it up. They're going to play physical, hopefully, on both sides of the ball. And I would love if they have to set a goal for themselves, it's on offense, lead the league in time of possession. If they can do that, right? If they can do that, which you can't do without running the ball. You could throw the ball a ton, but you still need to do that and grind it out on the ground. I think that's going to help them on offense. And on defense, if going back to when they were great, man, is control the LOS. Control the LOS. If they can do that, I think this team's got the balance on both sides of the ball. They got enough firepower. They got enough star quality. I still think they're going to make one more move, probably phase, next two phases of free agency. I still think they're going to make one more move. And that Boston, that signing with that running back, remember, he was a dynamic kickoff returner for the Eagles when he was there. So that might be one of the reasons that they brought him on. Little moves like that are going to make a difference. I think this team has definite, positive vibes just in every direction. And I really hope all arrows are pointing at a more physical aspect on both sides of the ball. I really hope that comes to fruition.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Well, hey, great job, you guys. We will catch you next week. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. This has been the Rams Roundtable. And Tom at Ramsbeat on X, joined by Mark and Ian and Paul, as always. And again, thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you all next week.
Bring back the bob and weave.